Even though we're all sitting here, we technically have to wait till 5:30 to start. That's why we're just waiting a second. Is it? Do you want to get out of here? Is that what you're saying? It's time to get going?
All right. Good evening, everyone. I've got a little script that I need to read here. This is a public meeting of the School Board of the West Bend Joint School District Number 1. More than 24 hours prior to the meeting, notice of the time, place, date, and subject matter of this meeting was posted at the entrance doors at the Education Service Center and at the West Bend Community Memorial Library. A copy was also sent to the Daily News, WIBD, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and other media sources that have requested notice of our meetings. I'd ask our superintendent to confirm that this meeting was properly posted.
Yes, it was.
Great, thank you. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everyone. We recognize a quorum at our meeting with all seven members present. And also, I'll say it is really a genuine pleasure to see a whole healthy crowd in front of us here at a school board meeting. So the first item of business here is to approve our agenda. And so I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda. Thank you, Nancy.
Second.
Thank you, Paul. Motion and second to approve the agenda. Any final discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. We'll continue on with our student reports, and we have one of our student representatives in person and one on video. So Emily Huseman is here in person. Emily, please let us know what's happening in the schools.
Hello? Okay, there we go. Hello, everyone. I hope you are all enjoying the warmer weather. In these last weeks, a lot has been going on, and there's a lot coming up. So, this week is one of the more busy weeks this year for students. Juniors have ACTs tomorrow, and while they're taking them, freshmen, sophomores, and seniors will be doing online classes for the day. They will be expected to turn in the assignments by the end of the school day. Good luck on the ACT. Also this week, seniors, including myself, have scholarship interviews. It is a bit nerve-wracking, but hopefully these go well for everyone. Staying on the topic of academics, psychology students are in the middle of learning about human development and how addiction starts and affects someone's life. Online veterinary medicine students just started new readings about parasites and the effects they have on livestock and pets at home. Video and audio production classes just finished their unit post-production of film and how to insert audio into films and the steps required for it. Band has moved on to a new unit on boomwhackers, and they're currently performing on the stage during class time. Staying on the topic of music, orchestra is now performing individual pieces to their classmates. They have been preparing and practicing these pieces for over 2 months and are finally going to show how much work they have put into this. Since band and orchestra can't have their concerts like normal, they're performing what they're learning in class to their classmates. There's also been a lot going on in athletics within this past month, since winter sports are finishing up and spring sports are starting up. I want to start off and congratulate the bowling team in state, and I want to congratulate the boys basketball team for winning the regional championship. It was definitely a great game to watch. The game was streamed February 25th, so friends and family could watch their favorite team while being COVID safe. Recently, some of the East volleyball players received a letter from Indiana University for the off-season practice with coaches around the country. This is a great opportunity for these girls to get back in shape and learn some important new skills. The West Bend Tap and Tavern served the Sunrise Burger on the 24th, and all proceeds from the Sunrise Burger went towards the Athletic Booster Club. I asked some people who went there that bought the Sunrise Burger, and they said it was definitely delicious. In other news, AP test dates have been changed and finalized. Students have been given the option to take the test in person or online. If they choose to take it online, they will need to take it a few days after the in-person tests. Now, my favorite thing to announce, we are actually having prom this year. It's held May 15th in the Washington County Fair Park from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. All COVID precautions will be taken at this event. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the warm weather.
Great, Emily, thank you. All right, and we have a presentation by Abigail Eckert, who is going to provide a video. All right. Thank you both to Abigail and to Emily for keeping us connected to what's going on in the schools. It sounds like it's going to be a busy time in the high schools, so we appreciate that. All right. Well, we as a board are very excited to have the recognition of many different state qualifiers and state champions. And so what I'd like to do next is invite forward Aaron Felber, our West Athletic Director, to help kind of kick off the introduction of these various teams, and we're excited to hear about them. Please, take it away.
All right. I first just want to congratulate everybody here, so coaches, student athletes, and also parents. And I appreciate everything you've done for both East and West athletics, and just want to congratulate everyone on your accomplishments. So we are going to first hear from Coach Jim Soxie and Coach Pete DeTunk from boys swim and dive. Come on up.
Bells are ringing. I have a few things to say first.
You guys want to come right here?
Yeah, go be pretty, all of you. First of all, I want to thank the board for this opportunity to recognize our state qualifiers. And I also want to congratulate all the athletes who took part in the winter sports season. You worked very hard to have a very successful season. We would be here all night if I were to go into the true meaning of success. and they all got it this past season, and they all did it. At this time, I do want to introduce my two assistant coaches. Deb Whitman coaches our beginning swimmers, our rookies, and helps me with the rest of the swimmers on the team. And Peach DeTunk, our diving coach, who had an awesome group of young men to coach. He was kept on his toes all season long. Now I have a few thank yous to express. We didn't have much of a banquet this year, but I do have people in this room that I need to thank a lot. A big thank you to Erin Felber, who is the athletic director I answer to. She has been very enthusiastic and very helpful all season long. Another big thank you to Jennifer Wimmer, our superintendent. It first happened in my 46 years of coaching West Bend High School as the swim team. A superintendent came to our home meets. That has never happened. This is a first. So thank you very much for your interest in our sport and all the other sports. And a big thank you to Kevin, Julie, John, Aaron, Maya, Ralph, Jennifer, and the other high school administration staff who I have CRS. I was introduced, but can I remember? No. Who gave the boys a great send-off to state. Ralph and John learned not to bet any of the athletes on the boys' swim and dive team because the consequences are very wet. Now, on to the athletes. My early birthday present came when these 4 team members competed at state. And I'd like to have Coach Pete talk about the divers.
Thank you to all you guys. I really, really appreciate the support that you've given to diving and to swimming. Thank you, Jim, for leading this team, because without you there, it would be, it just would not be the same. And thank you for fulfilling your obligation. And Kevin, thank you for fulfilling your obligation too. It was wonderful. Just wanted to say that these divers did something this year that has not been done in decades. Personal bests in almost every meet consecutively. Pool records throughout our area. 1.4 points from a state record by the guy who's shaking his head, acting like he's all coy. But Ryan Meyer, he finished 15th at the state meet this year with a score of 364 points. Austin Barco finished 10th this year with, I think it was 398, almost 400 points at the state meet. And Jan Lancer was the state champion, the first state champion that we've had in this school for boys since 1996. And he scored 562 points, which was literally 1.4 points from the all-time state record that was set many, many years ago. These guys work their butts off, and it is an honor to coach them. Thanks, guys.
Just a side note that Jan is the first diver I have been involved with as a head coach ever to win state. And that's 46 years. Thank you, Jan. All right. Try to keep this moving. I do have a few things to say about Kevin Fitzgerald, our swimming qualifier. And if the glasses will quit fogging up. He qualified for state in the 200 IM and was seated 10th. His best time before sectionals was 2:00:15. At sectionals, he went 1:57:34, and at state, he powered his way to medaling with a sixth place finish in the 200 IM with 1:54:75. Quite a drop in time, especially for the 200 IM. He also qualified in the 500 freestyle and also was seated 10th. Here we go. His best time before sectionals was 4:58:32. At sectionals, he went 4:49:48 to qualify and was seated 10th. And at state, the power machine broke loose when he went 4:42:76 to take sixth place and also medaled. So one of Kevin's outstanding abilities is to be able to sprint or power his way to the finish. His last 50 split in the 500 was 25:69, the fastest split of all, even the champion 500 freestyler. I mean, it just is awesome to watch him swim. Now, I'm also a statistics freak, and I gave one of our booklets to Jennifer, and there is one for the school board to look at. Each athletic director gets one, and all the swimmers and divers get one. It doesn't include everything. Over the past, I've been head coach 43 years. I was assistant 3 years before that. And 32 of those years, I was East head coach before the co-op. So I have state qualifiers galore and everything. It's just nuts. I've kept a top 5 yard and meter time list for the 11 swimming events and also for the 1 diving event for East and the co-op team. Kevin has put himself into the second fastest time in both the 200 IM and the 500 freestyle or the 400 freestyle meters in those 2 events. He's in a lot more. He did break an East school record this season, the 100-meter backstroke at a home meet, going 1:00:45. The record he broke is his brother's record. His brother is 3 years older than he is, by just about 0.2 of a second, which was awesome. I've tried not to say much about Brian, but Kevin is his own swimmer. He's his own person and his own personality in the pool, and it was just awesome being his coach. School board and administration, thank you for letting me continue to be the head coach of the West Bend Boys Swim and Dive team. It continues to keep me young at heart. I've been involved with swimming in June, 60 years in West Bend. Most of all, thank you very much for letting us talk about these amazing young men.
All right. Next up, we have West Bowling. If Coach Mike Herther could come up, that would be great.
All right, old boys, stand up there. Don't be shy. And Addie, too. Addie, you can come up because I got you, too, so. All right. I just want to thank everyone here, school board, superintendent, administration, athletics department for allowing seasons to happen. These kids need opportunities to go out, grow as individuals, turn into our young leaders of the future. So thank you to everyone who's put the time and effort into changing, making things work to give them these opportunities. I am the head boys coach, and throughout the past 4 years, this group, we finished in second in our own district 2 times, and we always came up short getting to state. So this year, with all the challenges, it was just an honor to go and get ourselves to finally qualify for state. They went 7-2 on the season. They ended up leading our district in team average with a 177 for their team average. And then Jeffrey was the top individual fill rate in our district with an 82% this year. Brandon, our other senior, kind of just got a technical error, what I feel awful about, but it's great to have them 2 seniors leading this team to show these younger guys what it's all about. And hopefully we can continue to have this success and get back to state, because it's the first time for this group, and it's a pretty special weekend. Team finished 21st in state this year. We averaged 172.2 during the state meet, what finished us in 21st place. Jeffrey qualified for individuals. We had a really good final game and almost got us to the point where we were going to make it to the next round of the semifinals. He finished 47th as an individual, and that is the boys team. And then I have a message here from Coach Gilliam in regards to Addie. Addie qualified for state this year. Addie's actually qualified for state all 4 years, so that's a big accomplishment by herself right there. She's the 2-time top fill rate for the girls in the district, a 4-time state qualifier. She's gone twice as a team and 3 times as an individual. She's a 3-time All-Star for the district and will be bowling this Saturday at the All-Star event, so we'll just ask for continued support and good luck to her. Jeff's also doing it. I know, I skipped you on that one. It kind of happened. I got a lot of notes here. Yeah, she's a 2-time team captain and has been the anchor bowler on their team for the past 3 years. She's been a great leader throughout the program and just really a role model for the girls to go and follow. So Coach Gilliam wishes you the best going forward, and good luck this weekend.
All right, next we have the East Girls Bowling Team, the 2020 state champions, and this year I believe finished 4th, so another really strong showing. If we could get Coach Keith Anderson to introduce that team.
Looks like a lot of sheets, but I wrote really big, so I didn't have to wear my readers like Coach Soxy there. Oh, boy. Give me a second here. My pages are out of line. This time I'd like to thank the board for taking this time to recognize our bowlers. I know they're busy, so thank you. I got some accolades from what bowling is all about here. Nearly 200 high schools in Wisconsin have students participating in high school bowling. Over the last decade, an average of 2,600 boys and 2,600 girls teams have participated in varsity high school bowling in the United States. That's teams. In 2018-19, more than 61,000 students bowled nationally in high school varsity competition. Notice I didn't mention 2020. Bowling has become one of the fastest growing high school sports in the last decade, showing growth in 8 of the last 10 seasons. 250 plus colleges offer bowling and nearly half offer scholarships. The bowling industry provides more than $8 million in scholarships each year. Bowling also gives students an opportunity to become involved with their high schools, also teaches fundamentals for lifetime sport, and helps athletes earn scholarships and bowl in college. I think it's time that West Bend bowling jumps out of the club sport realm and becomes a varsity sport. Alrighty, now for the real business. It's time to recognize these amazing young bowlers. I'm a little excited. We just got back from the state bowling championships up in Ashwaubenon. If you've never gone to a bowling competition, you've got to stop in and see one, whether it's just for one of the regular meets or for the state finals. In the course of a night, I'll guarantee you that you'll have a full range of emotion. It's kind of like putting 10 soccer moms into your living room and watching a Bears-Packer game. It gets a little crazy. All right, now I'd like to recognize the ladies. Step forward after I call your name so they know which one you are. First off, I'd like to recognize our freshman. She's also our Rookie of the Year. She bowled on varsity all year, Lauren Weber. Now for our sophomores, first off, we have our outstanding underclasswoman and our loudest cheerleader. Don't know where she got that from, Tamara. I know you're out there. Emily Zaromsky. Our second sophomore, also our most improved, Alondra Chavez. Our third sophomore is our most dedicated bowler and co-MVP, Haley Kaler. Just so you know that of all these underclass women, they all bowled 9 matches at different bowling alleys. Every match they each got 18 frames of bowling for a total of 162 frames, and all of them missed the singles competition by 2 or 3 strikes or spares. So they were really close to making the singles competition, all of them. So needless to say, I have high expectations for all of these ladies next year. Now for the seniors. This year, this next bowler is one of our most improved. She started as our program in bowling as a sophomore, and she's improved ever since. She was a part of our state championship team last year, Reina Hernandez. And our last senior, bear with me, I may run out of breath on this one. She's bowled in 4 consecutive qualifying state teams. helped win a state championship in 2019, took 8th place in state for singles in 2019. She's a 2-time co-MVP and MVP. Friday night in the singles competition at state, she rolled a 739 series. I'll do the quick math for you on that one. That's a 246 average per game. She trounced the field of 97 of Wisconsin's best boy bowlers and 55 of the best young lady bowlers in Wisconsin. Then came back on Saturday for the second round of qualifying and bowled a 600 series. That's a little easier math. That's only 200 a game. Leading the field still and sealed her berth into the championship match on Sunday morning for the stepladder finals. Unfortunately, she ran into Stephanie Zagar, last year's state champion in singles. Both the ladies had hit the pocket very well in their championship match, but Stephanie carried more strikes and she ended up taking the win. But it was a close game. Mackenzie did very well, and I was very proud of her. So she ended up in second place. The team finished in 4th place. So now I give you my final bowler, Mackenzie Mac Daddy Phillips. I'd also like to thank Rob Zaromsky for helping me out this weekend. He was my assistant. Thanks again, board. Ladies, it's been a wonderful year. Thank you, everyone.
Next up, we have the East Boys Bowling Qualifiers. If Coach Tom Trinkle can come up and speak to that.
Boy, how do I follow Coach Anderson? I'd also like to thank the board for recognizing bowling. It's a sport that often isn't recognized as a sport. As Coach Anderson stated, it takes a lot of physical agility to compete. It's very exciting. The East Boys team isn't here tonight. We didn't qualify for the state tournament. I just want to say that these boys managed to win 3 games this season with never having a full team. That was quite an accomplishment. I was very proud of them. Well, on to the state tournament. We have Nick step forward. Nick was second in the conference with a 78% fill percentage. Zach is the other one up here. Obviously, he doesn't need to step forward. He was in 5th with a 75% fill percentage. That qualified them for singles event at the state tournament. Nick bowled, ended up with a 578 pinfall, ended up 43rd out of 97 bowlers. Zach threw a 605, made it to semifinals, threw a 618 for a 1223 pin count, put him in 17th place out of 97. So yeah, I mean, I'm very proud of these guys. They worked hard all year, made it to state, and placed well, in my opinion. Did real well. Proud of these guys.
All right. I just wanted to point out our school district, I'm actually very grateful for the fact that we do have a variety of club sports here, and we do earn varsity letters. So for bowling, you're going to hear from the ski team, which is a co-op team, and then also the snowboarding team. but I know there's several school districts around the area that don't give varsity letters for these sports. So I am very appreciative that we are able to recognize them. Next up, we have the co-op for West Bend ski team, and if we could have Coach John Cison come on up.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to have our winter sports. Good evening to the school district board. Appreciate you having us here. I do want to also say that thank you to Erin Felber for her support for the winter, and to Jenny. They both came out to a meet. Unfortunately, it was one of the rainiest meets we had for the winter, but they both stuck it out probably 3/4 of the way, and we appreciate that. I think we pulled out at least a 3rd place or a 2nd place for boys and girls. My name is John Cison. I'm the head coach for both the boys and the girls teams for West Bend Ski Team. And then behind me here is one of my assistants. It's Kai Breedis. He's also very involved. I have 2 coaches that are not here tonight because of other commitments, and that is Derek Dorn, and a new one is Tamara Loken as well. She's new this year. The boys and girls ski team qualified for state in our conference out of 23 boys teams and 23 girls teams. In the conference, we placed 7th for the boys and 3rd for the girls. In order to qualify for state, you have to be in the top 12. So we did qualify. We had one individual that qualified for state, and that was Aiden Cison. Step forward, please. As an individual, he placed in week 4, he placed 3rd place. For those of you that don't know, this I think is the winningest sport or club in West Bend history. We've gone to state over 19 years in a row. So, or it's 19 years for sure. We think we missed one. So it is the winningest qualifier for state. This state meet was one of the coldest on record. At 6 a.m. on Sunday morning, it was -13, no windshield. It was probably -30 with the windshield. And these boys and girls prevailed. They did not complain. Despite the cold, the team focused and determined to be competitive. So congratulations to you guys. The state team was made up of 20 boys and 19 girls team. And please allow me to introduce the state qualifiers in all their placements. 3 of them are first-timers, state qualifiers. The first one is John Jansky. Step forward. I'm sorry, Josh Jansky. Step forward. You have a new name now. He placed 140th out of 145th. Alex Zimmer, step forward. He placed 124th out of 145. Megan Ginther, please step forward. She placed 118th out of 140. Aiden Cison, please step forward. Aiden placed 81st out of 145. Aiden is also a three-year state qualifier as well. Marcus Breedis, step forward. He placed 34th out of 145. And this is his 2nd time going to state. These boys and girls are always doing very well. We have a lot of combinations of things that can be very, very defensive to us, and that is the technical, the equipment, the cold, the rain, and the conditions on the hill. And we do appreciate our conference our school board and our school for recognizing that, and the ski areas that we work with. It's very important. There's a lot of pieces that come into this puzzle for a quick 6 weeks competition and a state competition. So thank you very much. Congratulations to all you guys.
All right, moving right along, we have the West Bend Co-op snowboarding team. If Coach Hunter Zaskowski and the team could come up, that'd be great.
All right, so hi, I'm Coach Hunter. This is my third year being the head coach for the snowboarding team, and I have one assistant, and that is John Mendel. He was unable to make it tonight. We had a really good season this year. We had 16 athletes, 7 of them were new. So we have a young team, but a very good team, and throughout the year our team progressed greatly all year long, and that's all we could ever ask for the kids. So starting off with individual results for top 10 for conference and state results. First off is Ethan Benedict. If you guys can raise your hand when I call your name. He's a junior at West, and he was also our team captain this year. And he took first place in conference for border cross and 7th place for slalom and giant slalom. And for state, he took gold, so first place for border cross, which is awesome, and 8th place in slalom, which is really great. Up next is Jack Felix. Jack is a senior at West, and for conference results, he placed 10th in slalom, 5th in GS, and 6th in border cross. So very good throughout the whole year and very consistent. At state, he placed 9th in slalom. And moving right along, next we have Preston Reiner. Preston is a senior at East. Although he did not have any top 10 finishes throughout the year, he had a very strong and very smooth, and he put down good scores for our team throughout the entire year. And consistency is definitely a key to winning a team sport. So he did very good this year. Next, we have John Sipe. John is a junior at West. It was his first time at state this year, and we were pleasured to bring him along, and he really had a great time, and he put down a good run, and it was good to have him. Next, we have Brady Guth. Brady is a sophomore at West, and it was also his first time at state, which, being an underclassman, being a sophomore, was a great experience for him, and we hope to have him back for 2 more years and to keep going up and doing better and better. Next, our last boy for our state team, actually no, we have 2 more boys, sorry. Our next boy, he was unable to make it, that's Kieran Daughtery. He is a freshman for East, and for him to go as a freshman was a big accomplishment alone, and I think he really enjoyed it as well. Last but not least, for the boys, we have Aiden Guzy. Aiden is a junior at East. It was his first year on the team, and he did really good throughout the conference, throughout the regular season for conference and at state. He had some solid placements that really helped our team scores. And again, that's what we ask for when it comes to a team sport, is everyone works together, and that's how we win, or that's how we do well. For our girls now, starting off is Sam Schaefer. Sam Schaefer is a junior at West. This is her 3rd year on the team, and within the conference, she placed 3rd in slalom and 2nd in giant slalom. Next is Sam Caston. Sam's also a junior at West. For conference, she placed 6th in slalom, 9th in giant slalom, and 4th in border cross. At state, she took 10th in border cross and put her in the top 10, which was awesome. Next, we have Brianna Schaubel. Brianna's a freshman at East, and conference-wise, she took 5th in border cross. Obviously, this is her first year on the team, and that's a great accomplishment. She also went to state with us, which as a freshman is a lot, and it was a very good experience for her, and we hope to have her back. Last but not least, for our girls, we have Larson Anderson. Larson is a junior at East, sorry. This is her first year on the team, and she had a good time. She seemed to have a great time, I should say. And she had some solid finishes throughout the year and really helped our placements of our girls team overall. And she also went to state. That is it for our individuals. Our team placements for conference, men's took 3rd in slalom, 3rd in giant slalom, and 2nd in border cross. And then our women took 4th in slalom, 4th in giant slalom, and 3rd in border cross. State overall placements, men took 2nd in slalom, 3rd in border cross, and 5th in giant slalom. Our girls team took 3rd in border cross, 4th in slalom, and 6th in giant slalom. That is all I have. I just want to thank the athletic department, the school board, and the whole community for the continued support. Our team's grown, and we hope to keep growing. And we're looking forward to another good season next year. Thank you.
I just want to point out real quick that Mr. Schloss and Mr. Graff have probably like 2 more days to do snow angels before all the snow melts. I think you owe that to Ethan Benedict, the state champion, Mr. Schloss. Last but certainly not least, we have the West Wrestling Program with Coach Aaron Spaeth.
Good evening, and thank you for taking the time to recognize these state qualifying student athletes. Tonight, I would like to take some time to talk about the West Bend West wrestlers, Ben Bast, Connor Marasola, and Cole Marasola. When I think about what these 3 wrestlers accomplished this year, the word historic comes to my mind. These 3 individuals etched their names into West Bend West wrestling history. Ben, Connor, and Cole combined for a record of 58 total wins and only 2 losses. All 3 of these wrestlers qualified for the state tournament by winning their sectional bracket. This is the first time in school history that this has been done. Each one of these wrestlers had a tremendous season. I would like to take some time to say some words about each one. Ben Bass, would you step forward? The historic season did not stop there. Ben went on to finish his season with a perfect record of 20 wins and 0 losses. Ben became West Bend West's 2nd ever state champion and our first state champion since 1993. To give you an idea, round of applause for that. To give you an idea of just how dominant Ben was this season, Ben gave up 1 total takedown in the entire season. 1 total takedown that came in the first round at state. So, awesome job, Ben. Next up, Connor, would you step forward? Connor Marasola. Connor Marasola qualified for the state tournament as a freshman at the 170-pound weight class. Connor wrestled tough the entire state tournament. After watching teammate Ben win a state title, Connor followed suit and by winning the 170-pound weight class. Connor finished the season with a perfect 20-0 record and became the heaviest freshman ever in Division I wrestling history to win a state title. Connor Marasola. Next up, Cole Marasola. Cole qualified for the state tournament at the 182-pound weight class. Now, just qualifying for state at 182 as a freshman is a feat. Cole didn't stop there, though. Cole finished his season with an impressive 18-2 record and placed 5th at state. Cole is now the heaviest freshman in West Bend West history to ever place at state. Cole Marasola. As you can see, each one of these wrestlers created their own piece of wrestling history. What they have done would amaze, maybe shock many. But for anybody that knows these kids, for anybody that has spent any little bit of time around them, knows it was well-deserved and it wasn't a surprise. The level of dedication, the level of effort, the level of love for the sport just gleams with these athletes. To give you an idea of what kind of kids they are, the Monday after the state tournament, they showed up to the wrestling room with big smiles on their faces, said, "Coach, we got work to do." That's just kind of the mentality that they have. They're never done. They're always looking for the next best thing and constantly looking to improve. Thank you for a great season, West Bend West Wrestling.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. It's always a pleasure to hear about the great accomplishments of our student athletes. We're proud of all of them. We hope you're all proud of your own accomplishments, and thanks also to the coaches and parents for everything they do to support these young athletes. All right. We've come to the public participation portion of our agenda, and I have one public participation comment card. If there are others, I'd ask you to bring it forward at this time while I read the normal announcement for public participation. We've come to the public participation portion of our agenda. Board Policy 187 prescribes the nature and procedures for this segment. I summarize the policy at this time, but copies are available in the back of the room, and I urge you to familiarize yourself with the policy in its entirety. Residents of the district, parents of children in district schools, and employees of the district may participate. Participants desiring to address the board should obtain and complete a participant comment card near the entry and turn it over to the president prior to the meeting or when allowed by the president. Participants may comment concerning an agenda item or a non-agenda item. Each participant will be called to the podium and given 3 minutes to speak. The participant must state his or her name, address, and relation to the district. This information will appear in the minutes of the meeting. The board will not engage in debate concerning the remarks or take immediate action. The board may refer the matter to the superintendent, a committee, or take the remarks into consideration in future action. Board Policy 872 provides a formal process for citizen complaints, and Board Policy 520 provides a formal process for employee complaints. The board recommends use of these procedures as they guarantee a fair and timely response. So at this time, I'd like to invite forward Ms. Jody Geenan for public comments. And Ms. Geenan, while you're coming forward, as the board policy states, as a speaker, you will be limited to 3 minutes. And what I'll do is, I've got a timer, and I will notify you when 1 minute remains. And then I'll ask you to wrap up your remarks when 30 seconds remains. So I apologize in advance for the interruptions, but we'll do it to help keep time so you can focus on your comments. So please proceed with your name, address, and your relation to the district.
All right. Good evening. My name is Jody Geenan. I live at 1511 Primrose Lane, West Bend, Wisconsin. I am a taxpayer and a candidate on the ballot for the West Bend School District School Board. I am here today to follow up with my concerns about the 6th grade social studies curriculum, namely the resource entitled National Geographic Global Issues. For the sake of anyone from the community who may be viewing this meeting, this is a series of 12 booklets broken into 3 reading levels, above, below, and on level. The booklet topics are global problems and how to fix them, such as population growth, pollution, migration, and energy resources. While the topics are interesting and relevant to learn, the booklets lack sufficient content and tend to be unbalanced. For example, each booklet has 2 case studies and another story. When they present solar and wind energy as the only good solutions for energy resources, they leave out the problems except for what to do with lack of sun or wind. They also fail to mention nuclear energy and natural gas. The booklets state that most scientists believe climate change is man-made without telling us which scientists or where they got their information. They also fail to discuss past ice ages or that we need CO2 for growing vegetation. During the curriculum committee meeting last week, it was brought to the committee's attention that this series is not what the teachers chose. The teachers chose a more classical textbook, which was not part of the public review, so I cannot judge whether the contents is more balanced, but I tend to believe that if the teachers chose the textbook over the series, it must be better. The committee members who appeared to be viewing both resources for the first time seemed to agree with me. The administration stated that they chose the National Geographic series because it helps make implementing the method of instruction that our district adopted easier, since it breaks the units into different reading levels. In other words, it sounds like the method of instruction takes precedence over the content, but content is what the students are supposed to be learning. Our administration promises there will be secondary resources to make up for what the series lacks, but we were not shown the supplements, so it's hard for us to judge that. So, thank you for your time and consideration of my concerns. I believe in fact-based and balanced education. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right. Are there any other individuals who wish to participate in public participation at this time? All right. Hearing none, we'll move to the next item then on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. And on our consent agenda, we have minutes from the February 22, 2021 regular board meeting and executive session, and disbursements posted to March 8th, 2021. I don't believe there are any contracts to ratify, no resignations, and no retirements. So I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thanks, Joel. Second, let's see. Motion and second to approve the consent agenda. Any final discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. All right. This takes us to, I believe, the superintendent's report. So, Superintendent Wimmer.
Again, I'd like to just reiterate on behalf of the board and administration, thank you to our coaches, our athletes who represented West Bend in competition, winter competitions. Spring seasons are already underway and getting started, so it's hard to imagine when that seems like such a just regular part of our year that, you know, it was very different this time last year. And to think that we have been this successful pulling off all of our sports this year. So just with gratitude for the work that it took for our athletes to adjust to new practices and persevere. So again, thank you for representing West Bend. You might have heard a couple of these in the student reports, but I'd also like to just thank our column scholarship group. They kicked off this morning. They met early morning. Our students, as you heard, don't be nervous. You guys are all ready. They're interviewing over the next couple of days for scholarships with representatives of columns. We're very fortunate to have columns as a group. They're anticipating to award around $900,000 in academic and technical scholarships to West Bend East and West Bend West seniors this year. So again, this is an extraordinary organization. It's something unique to West Bend that they come together as a unified group to create opportunities for kids. I would urge you to visit wbcolumns.org to learn more. But again, our gratitude for the organization and for the experience for our students to go forward and formally interview before a panel. It's a great experience. So best of luck to all of those students this week. You also heard we're planning for prom and graduation. Sometimes some good does come out of a pandemic. I know the graduation committee really enjoyed having graduation last year on the football field. That's something that they're planning for. And we're working with the administration, our district nurse, myself, to host prom at Fair Park this year. So that junior-senior prom will be on May 15th. Graduation would be Saturday, June 5th, with a rain date on June 6th, should we need it, as that will be an outdoor event. So again, you'll get additional details from the high schools as those come together. But, thank you to the students for their creativity and planning. Our students are highly engaged with support of adults at the high school in planning those events. So thank you to them for their creativity. You also heard them talk about the ACT being tomorrow for our 11th graders. It's a virtual day for the remainder of students so we can accommodate testing. So best of luck to those students as they do their best in tomorrow's ACT testing. And speaking of testing, last year everyone received a pause from standardized testing, required testing, due to the pandemic. This year, going into the school year, they knew they didn't want to take pause. So the U.S. Department of Education and the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction is working with districts to deploy testing. At this time, they don't have a virtual option, and the state has applied for as much flexibility as will be allowed, whether it's how many students need to participate and all of those things. But they are committed to moving forward with some type of standardized testing and reporting. It's important to understand benchmarking that learning, what does it look like, so that districts and our state can be responsive to maybe different needs as we emerge from the pandemic for our students. So again, just so you know, we have a variety of families who chose a virtual option, and what does that mean? So we fully understand and support that choice of families, and for a myriad of reasons, they chose not to be in person. They have those same opportunities for testing. We've declared what would be a non-instructional day, April 5th, for other students to keep a whole building clear, to get the spacing that we need and provide mitigation measures, and put out a survey to families. Are you available? Are you not available for testing? Are you choosing not to test because they chose a virtual environment? We have that in front of families now. So if you're a virtual family, please just click on that survey and let us know, will you be coming for testing or not, so that we can create accommodations to the environment and support you. We have lunch available, snacks available, but again, just intentionally a non-instructional day for our students so we could push out, give the kids a space. For many, it's the first time they might be seeing teachers or classmates that they're accustomed to seeing virtually. So they have some icebreakers in there. It's not a come on in, sit down and take a test. It's acclimating students to each other and those things. So again, if you're a virtual family, please just take a look and let us know so that we can plan appropriately. And for our other students, that testing will take place between March and May 14th. Your school principal will give you more information. As of March 1st, our employees considered in 1B, that's all other educational employees, were eligible to receive a vaccine. So previously we were in that 1A category. That was people who were in kind of first contact with students who may be sick or things like that that made them a priority placement. All other educational staff, including our bus drivers, our food service staff, all other people are eligible effective March 1st. And we're just really thankful for our clinic partner, Freightert. That is our partner for vaccine distribution for any of our staff who would like one, and that's already commenced. Bless you. And given that new status, and as we move through that process and some things shifting, we're looking at plans to restore band and choir instruction in the classroom. So that's kind of been pushed outside the classroom. Those were high-risk areas. So we have been meeting every 3 weeks with public health. So public health has now allowed us to tentatively proceed with planning. Just thankful for our staff who have been creative in their instruction thus far and helping us to plan for reintroduction of both band and choir instruction in our classroom. So thank you to them. No other updates.
Any questions for our superintendent? All right, hearing none, We'll move on to the next item. Actually, we have a series of 4 action items tonight, and Emily Melstrand is going to be walking us through, I think, each of them. So the first is Head Start selection criteria.
All right. Thank you so much for inviting me back tonight to talk about a continuation of some of the work that I shared with you when I was here before you in January. As you mentioned, let me see if I can scroll forward here. Oh, it's a PDF. I'm sorry. Maybe not. There we go. I was able to scroll. So as you mentioned, I have tonight 4 action items that I'd like to share some information with you about, and then ask for your support of those specific action items or these agenda items. All 4 of them are connected to the Washington County Head Start program. And as most of you know, but in case there are folks watching at home, I'm Emily Melstrand. I'm the principal of Early Learning, and I'm also the director of our Washington County Head Start, which is affiliated with the West Bend School District, as we are the grantee of that program. And my 4 items tonight are the selection criteria, the training and technical assistance plan, the refunding application for the 21-22 school year, and the cost of living adjustment, or the COLA grant, also for the upcoming school year. Oh boy. There we go. I apologize. I don't know why I'm having so many difficulties with the screen tonight. Okay, so my agenda items, I just wanted to show you how these were all connected to one another, and specifically to the refunding application. So in January, when I came to speak with you, I shared the results of our community and self-assessment. And at that time, I described how that really becomes the springboard to the rest of the work that we do as we plan forward for the upcoming school year. And the refunding application for the Head Start program really becomes kind of the process for pulling all of that information together as we plan forward. So each of these different components is connected to our refunding application. I'm going to talk with you about the selection criteria, and that really defines how we choose students for our Head Start program, and that's one of our action items. I'm going to talk with you about our program goals and action steps. That's actually not an action item, but it's really important for you because that drives our training and technical assistance plan, and it's a huge component of the refunding application. And then also the cost of living adjustment, or COLA grant, which is directly associated with the refunding application. So our first action item relates to the selection criteria. And the Office of Head Start puts forth performance standards that really drive how we choose the students we serve. And the primary basis of the performance standard is that we want to make sure we are serving our families that need us most. And so the Washington County Head Start program has selection criteria that's in alignment with the Head Start performance standards that indicates our #1 selection component is income eligibility. So we're looking for families who have preschool-age children who meet the guidelines for the federal guidelines for poverty. And then in addition to that, we're also considering and accepting families who meet one of the other primary categorical eligibility components. So families who receive SSI, who are a part of the temporary assistance for needy families, children who are considered homeless or in foster care are prioritized at the top of our list. And then we identify a prioritization tool where points are allotted based upon specific criteria, so that in the event we have more students than we have slots available, we have a strategy or a tool that allows us to identify the families who need us most. And so we look at things like, is the child a child of an incarcerated parent? Is the child a child who has experienced trauma? Who is the child of a teen parent? Is it a child who has a disability and is being served through an IEP? It's important to us that we're serving our English language learners. We have an EL teacher as a part of our program, and being able to give those children the opportunity to be in a preschool program where they're able to receive that support is really impactful. And then we're also able to accept 10% of our student population that's over income. So they don't have to meet those income eligibility guidelines, but we choose those students also through the use of our prioritization tool. And that's really identifying, based upon those categorical eligibility components, which children need us most. So do you have any questions regarding the selection criteria before I move forward with the recommended action?
Emily, excuse me, I'm assuming the criteria is pretty much the same as it's always been. There's nothing new or significantly changed in there?
You are correct, Paul. The selection criteria is the same for Washington County Head Start as it has been the last several years. We are required to bring it to you annually to ask for approval. But yes, it's the same, and it's worked very well for us. If there aren't any other questions, I would recommend the approval of the Washington County Head Start selection criteria by the school board.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and second to approve the Head Start selection criteria. Any final discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. All right. Please.
All right, thank you very much. So the second thing that I wanted to share with you is kind of a description of our program goals and action steps. And I actually already shared this in greater depth when we met in January. So I'm going to kind of slide past this pretty quickly, but I wanted to make sure that you had this foundation because it drives our training and technical assistance plan. So the self-assessment gave us some areas of focus. And those areas of focus really align to our program goals. Our program goals for Head Start roll within a 5-year cycle. So we actually have a 5-year funding cycle, and our primary goals stay pretty static across those 5 years. What we're changing in response to our self-assessment are our objectives, so our smaller units of measure, and then also our action plan. So we have 5 goals. We're focusing on our data collection system and our data in action and how that drives instruction. We're focusing on strengthening and expanding our service delivery options. We're also always focusing on how we align families with relevant community resources and support our families because we know how impactful our parents are to the education of preschool children. We continue to focus on innovative teaching practices, and then also as I mentioned in great detail in our last meeting was that whole idea of promoting social and emotional skills through the implementation of our pyramid model. Now with that, that information really leads into our training and technical assistance plan, and this is our next action item. So each of those goal areas align with multiple leverage points that we are focusing on in terms of professional development. And what I wanted to first identify for you is our training and technical assistance plan supports each of those goals, but it's also differentiated or tiered based upon teacher need. So for example, our novice teachers have a 3-year tiered plan where we identify from the point in which they join our program until the point where they kind of graduate from being a novice teacher to a more veteran teacher, what specific pieces of learning does that individual need in order to be a highly effective teacher in our program? So there's a 3-tiered layer there. And then in addition to that, each of our staff groups has a differentiated plan. So for example, if you look at data in action as our first goal, we're focusing on continuous improvement. We're focusing on differentiated instruction. And then specifically as strategies, play-based learning and language and literacy instruction. Under service delivery, we're really working to increase the models that we have, increase the service delivery options that we have. And as I mentioned in January, our primary focus is co-teaching. We're really trying to drive down the student-to-teacher ratio, and we're also trying to make sure that we are providing services to students in a very inclusive model. We're focusing on educator resilience, And that's really the skills that teachers need to be successful in their interpersonal skills, their ability to persevere through challenges, and to be really creative in their problem solving around student needs. And then very important, we're looking at improving our cultural responsive practices in our preschool classrooms. Related to our community resources goal, we continue to focus on that whole idea of healthy eating and movement and exercise. And one of our primary leverage strategies is the nature-based learning. Under innovative practices and pyramid model, you're going to see very similar strategic drivers, and that's really focusing on our implementation of the pyramid model to support problem solving and social emotional skills. And then just to kind of give you a really quick example of the differentiation between staff groups, for example, that idea of community resources, I'm working with my family advocates around specific strategies for connecting with families in relationship to healthy eating and movement and exercise, but our clerical team might be working on developing their data collection around that. So each of those are tiered in terms of the needs of the staff. So with that, I ask if you have any questions for me about the training and technical assistance plan.
I'll move to approve the Head Start Technical Training and Assistance Plan for the 2021-2022 school year.
Second, Tani.
Thank you. Motion and second to approve the Head Start Technical Assistance and Training Plan. Any final discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Our next action item is really asking for your approval of the Head Start refunding application. As I mentioned, we're in year 4 of a 5-year grant cycle, and there's key components, most of which we've already talked about, that feed into the refunding application. So a large component of that is identifying our program goals, identifying our objectives, our action steps, and our supporting training and technical assistance plan, which I've just shared with you. The next part is identifying very clearly our service delivery model. And as you know, we have programs at 3 different buildings, the Rolfs Education Center, the YMCA, and the Jackson Community Center. And within that, we offer various length of day options for families, from half day to 3/4 to full day, and the opportunity to be integrated into our community-based 4K is also provided to families. And our primary service delivery within classrooms really focuses on co-teaching. And then the family engagement is well defined within the refunding application, and again, it's focusing on individual family goals. We have a goal set with every single one of our families that not only supports their child's education, but really helps to develop the well-being of the family. And then finally, the budget. And the budget is really the compilation of a couple of different grants. We're funded through our federal grant, through the Office of Head Start, the Training and Technical Assistance Grant, and the COLA grant, which I'm going to ask for your approval separately. And so we have a total budget dollar amount as defined on the screen, and then that is split up into our different large categories: personnel, fringe benefits, supplies, contractual, and other. And the other thing I did want to mention is this year has, although it's brought a lot of different kinds of unique challenges, it's also brought forth the opportunity for us to be pretty frugal in our allocation of dollars. We've saved a lot of money in transportation costs, and we haven't done as much for professional development in terms of traveling outside of West Bend. So we do have some savings there that's going to be allocated within the same budget category in the upcoming grant cycle. So any savings that I have in transportation this year will carry forward to the transportation budget for next year and reduce that obligation. Do you have any questions regarding the Head Start refunding application? And I know you had lots of that information in your board packet. So this is the very summarized version.
Stanley, you had included an exhibit that suggests that the school board should consider approving the Head Start refunding application, including the designation of unobligated funds for the 2021-22 school year. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I'll move approval. Is there a second? Thank you, Nancy, for the second. Motion and second to approve the Head Start refunding application, including the designation of unobligated funds for the 2021-22 school year. Any final discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, the motion carries.
Wonderful, thank you. And the last item I have for you this evening is the cost of living adjustment grant, the COLA grant, which is just a separate allocation that the Office of Head Start provides to us. It's pretty straightforward, and I appreciate your time tonight because these are annual requirements. So even though there isn't a lot of change from year to year, I do appreciate the opportunity to share the work we're doing. And this is one of these very straightforward. The Office of Head Start says to us, we are going to provide you a 2% annual increase that's added to our federal base. I do believe this year, in addition to that, we are going to receive an allocation up to 1.22%, so potentially a little over a 3% increase on our COLA grant. Head Start dictates that the only allowable use of COLA grant dollars is increased compensation and benefit costs, and I'm just guaranteeing to you that that's how the grant will be utilized, and I'm asking for your approval of that required use.
Great. Any questions for Emily on that item? Hearing none, I would move to approve that the COLA grant be allocated toward increased compensation for the 2021-22 school year. Aaron, thanks for the second. Motion and second. Any final discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, the motion carries.
Wonderful, and that's all I have for you tonight. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, we can move on to your next agenda item.
Great. Any other questions for Emily? I'll just say thank you very much for the clear presentation, for walking us through the pieces. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your work.
Thank you very much.
All right. That takes us to the first of three discussion items. First discussion item is staffing plan for 2021-2022, and Mr. Lenny Hansen will walk us through that. Mr. Hansen, good evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you had this open, in fact, this is I updated this report in Board Docs just a minute ago on a couple of formatting things. So if you had it open previously, you just might want to refresh it. But again, now isn't probably the time to really go through it actually with a fine-tooth comb because it's pretty lengthy. And I'm going to try and keep things relatively brief in an overview today. So the staffing report is a document that we present to you so you have an understanding of the direction that we are taking the staffing plan as a district for next year. This is not a document that you need to vote to approve. You really vote to approve the staffing plan through other actions that you take, both when later in this spring when you approve contracts for staff is when you take action, as well as your overall approval of the budget. Those are really the areas where you step in and say, yes, we think that this is the right plan for the district, and let's move ahead with it. What this document really tries to do is break down all of the different detail about where we allocate all those staffing dollars. As I've said many times at this podium before, staffing and the associated costs with that is by far the largest expenditure that the district has. So obviously, our ability to present a balanced budget to you year after year is highly dependent on having a strong and strategically aligned staffing plan, which we're hoping to present to you today. So what you have in your packet, you'll want to take some time later on to go through and take a look at some of the details of how we are laying out our staff to meet the needs of our students. At the last meeting, I talked about some key priorities. I think I used the word driver about 72 times as I had that discussion, but those priorities you now see in action with all of the tables and the data that's included here. There's really just 4 sections as you go through the plan that you'll see. The first is looks at kind of key assumptions that underlie our decision making in a number of areas. Some of those assumptions are how we allocate staff for certain programs such as special education and ELL. We also put in some other assumptions around really understanding that enrollment changes every day to some degree, right? So we have to allow for fluctuation, which is one of the other reasons we don't have you vote on this exact plan, because we could get enrollment changes in April that suddenly cause us to make an adjustment, and we don't want to have to come and bring that back every time that a change like that takes place. And then one of the other assumptions is that the budget, that the staffing plan is put together in a very fiscally conservative manner, so that, given the uncertainties that we see coming, especially the fact that we have no idea what the state's biennium budget is going to look like. We may get no increase from the state. We have no idea. We need to operate in a very conservative manner to ensure that that balanced budget is still able to be provided to you. The next section you'll see are the priorities. We have lots of priorities in the staffing plan, right? I could probably write 100 pages and talk about it all night about all the different things we're accomplishing with the staffing plan. But when you look at priorities specific to this year that aren't, generally applied every year to our plan, there are 5 that I really picked out as being really critical for some of the needs this year, as well as some of the situation that we find ourselves in. We are committed to preserving all of the programs and pathways that exist in our district for students. In spite of budget uncertainty, in spite of whatever may happen in terms of COVID-related costs moving forward, we are going to maintain those programs in some manner or another. We also are committed to, regardless of the budget situation, not balancing the budget on the backs of class sizes and making sure that our class sizes stay in line with pre-pandemic norms and that you don't see a big shift there. We do have a buffer built in for our early learning and kindergarten enrollment. As I talked about last time, a couple weeks ago, that prediction around that kindergarten and early learning enrollment has never been more difficult than it is this year. Many families chose to pause for a year on 4K because of concerns about the pandemic. Some of them indicated that they maybe would skip 4K and just go to 5-year-old kindergarten, but for us that's challenging because we don't have that enrollment number then rolling up from 4K to 5K. So we have put a buffer in. We've looked at our kindergarten enrollment numbers and we're working to be conservative about that. Ms. Schmidt?
Your overall enrollment chart on page 5, is that in person or the virtual academy or both together?
Good question. Our overall enrollment in here is based on all students put together into one group, so that includes your virtual students as well. We also know that we saw, greater fluctuation in enrollment this year, as basically every school district across the country did because of COVID. So again, having enough buffer in there to ensure that if there are other fluctuations was really important for us. Other priorities, we put in place some things for this year around social emotional learning that were actually adds to our program, as you recall, and we were very grateful that you approved those. We are very committed to maintaining those. The social emotional needs of our students aren't going to go away just because we're a year further away from COVID, and even pre-COVID we had social emotional needs that we needed to meet, and we feel that those were really important additions to the staffing plan that we're currently in, and we really want to protect those as we move into next year as well. The document talks about how a good social emotional program takes on those challenges from a multi-layered and team-based approach, not just having one person in the building who's kind of just responsible for all the social emotional needs, but having a team collaboration type approach is necessary, we believe, for that to be effective. And then the last priority is about that fiscal financial sustainability and the feasibility long-term of the plan. After that, it gets into some of the enrollment data, and then it has a whole bunch of charts there for you about where are all the staffing dollars actually allocated from site to site. I tried to color coordinate by the school colors in there to keep it a little bit more lively looking of a document, but you'll see kind of where our section numbers are from building to building. We do project a decrease in the total number of sections needed at the elementary level based purely on enrollment trends. We have that identified in there at reduction of 5 sections at elementary. We have a projected reduction of 2 sections at Silverbrook, a projected reduction of one section at Badger. You kind of see that trend as we've talked about, how elementary has really been bearing the brunt of the reductions, but that it's now slowly matriculating up through the system. We, as I said in the past, we are very hopeful that we can accomplish all those reductions through normal attrition, retirement, resignation, transfer, those sorts of things, but we will be monitoring that in the coming days and weeks. The end of this week is actually the deadline for staff to notify us if they are retiring, and from there we'll start seeing where we're standing and what decisions have to be made. If a reduction is necessary and we can't accomplish it through attrition, as I've said before, we use board policy 536.5, reduction force, and that's how we engage in that process. Then after the enrollment section, you just see that detail broken down by certified staff, our support staff that support instruction, kind of district-wide program staff and administration, and then finally the non-instructional support staff as well. So a lot of information there for you to take a look at, but any general questions at this point?
Any questions from the board?
Do you think we'll actually be hiring this summer?
I think we will have certain positions we need to hire for, absolutely. Yes, we're always hiring. When you're an organization our size, I mean, 900 employees, not counting seasonal or coaches and that, I mean, there's always turnover that requires us to hire, for sure. Will we be hiring as much as maybe we were 10 years ago? Probably not, but.
So I got a question about the net change of 126 students. Do we believe that's worst case scenario or on the bottom side, and it could be up from there based on promotion of our district, parochial schools maybe coming in at a higher level, et cetera?
So that projection is based on actual students enrolled right now. So we're not basing any of these projections on any possible additions. So I would say it's probably on if I was a betting person, I think we'd have more students than it shows there next year, because one thing I did not include, because I only wanted to count students that were actually here, is we do generally have a bump at 9th grade as parochial students graduate out of 8th grade and then join us for our high school program. But given how much fluctuation and uncertainty took place this year, I didn't feel comfortable presenting you with, oh, trust me, we're going to have 60 more kids in 9th grade than it shows here. As those students enroll, we will adjust, but I would say this is what we have right now, but if you were following historical trends, we'll probably have more students than that next year. You also have, certain cohort attrition sometimes as well from grade to grade of maybe a couple kids. That sometimes happens. Really never been harder to project, and therefore just use actual students that we have here.
I'll just say thank you for being proactive and looking at this information as a superintendent, as an administrative team. It's just news we have to face, and I appreciate all the charts on the full-time equivalents and class sizes by school and grade. Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, and next we have a pair of discussion items with first reading of several policies, and Superintendent Wimmer will walk us through this. I think we're going to start with the first reading of policies recommended for removal. Is that correct?
Correct. We have them segregated. You were forewarned. We've had this information out, kind of that handy dashboard, what the policy committee worked on. The first, and I just have a reminder of our policy language on creating policies. So it is possible that after 2 readings without any substantive change, if the full board's comfortable, we can bring those forward as well. So the first slate is for removal. There's one on reproducing copyrighted materials. That information is already contained in other policies, our student handbooks, and codes of conduct. Any questions about that and why we're recommending for removal? Okay. Okay. That second one is 441.2, non-voting advisory student board members. It had origins from the 1960s, the late 1960s, and it is not a current practice. It talks about our student representatives, who you saw here tonight, as being different elected positions and being non-voting members, and we talked about just times have changed around students' engagement since 1967, so we thought we could take that one off the books. Any questions about that? Okay. 447.2, it is around seclusion and restraint. That information is going to be contained in 447.1. It's a policy in the next group. So if we adopt that, it commingles things around use of force by staff as well as seclusion and restraint, so they can be commingled. And then we found an old lingering policy. You'll see that number is way different than any other number. It's 6181.2. It is a rule around AV preview and purchase process. We think that it might be still sitting on the books as part of old policy, and we thought just to avoid doubt, we would go for formal removal, so it is removed from the books. But if you wanted to know how to get videotapes, that's the policy for you. Yep, it was all about getting your VHS tapes. Any questions from the board regarding the removals? Great, then we'll continue to bring those forward.
All right, so the next item then would be the first reading of policies recommended for revision.
Great, that's a longer list, so if you take a look at that, again, I put the snapshot of that dashboard because you could see as policy evolves. We have that out for the public too. It's found in our policy committee. It's found anytime we're talking about policy, and it's noting when did the group talk about it at committee, when is the different slate of it coming before the board. And then you can see at the top, it's around, we've put it into that draft language. We have line items in case you want to call anything out. The very first one is 133, filling school board member vacancies. We had old language and then an additional set of rules. This language is recommended by WASB. It provides step-by-step guidance and provides clarity right in the policy itself. If this, then this, should a vacancy occur. Are there any questions regarding that language? Great. The next one is 225.1, administrative staff evaluations. Again, we're updating the language here to actually be reflective of our current practice. We utilize the educator effectiveness practice. That includes our principals. And then we also added language which was silent on the superintendent evaluation. So all other evaluations are under my purview, and then you're responsible for the one. We'll recall we've had a couple closed sessions for our mid-year check-ins. It's just noting that that is your responsibility as a board to evaluate the superintendent. Any questions on that language? Great. 333, district programs and activities. This is just revising the title and punctuation on this. This is our existing language. If you click on that, I've highlighted that in yellow. That's what we're missing. It's adding the word student privacy to the title, as well as some punctuation things. So that is no content specific, it's just those changes. Any questions? The next is Interlibrary Loan. It's 362.1, and that is bringing revisions up to date using WASB language. It's reflective of our current practice, and it's really just talking about, much like our county library systems, that we do the same within other districts and other libraries, knowing that not one collection can meet all needs. Any questions regarding that? Okay. And again, thank you to the policy committee. I know we did the heavy lifting with hours of looking at words on your behalf too. So the next is assistive technology, technology for students with special needs. That's 363.3. It was mislabeled. We were revising it to include the correct number. So no content changes in that one, but it's just the actual real number. Any questions? Guidance and counseling is 364. Again, this is updating our language to be representative of current practice, and a little bit more, if you look at the previous one, it was very light, very generalized. This is a little bit more detailed and includes some of the ACP or academic and career planning language around our counseling program and service. Any questions there? 431, compulsory student attendance. 431, you'll notice if you followed the evolution of the work, we'd like to revise this to have updated language and remove all the ARs or administrative rules and associated exhibits. Those are out of date. We have that covered, and then we have a committee that is working on attendance, and we'll make sure we've got updated letters and that we're informing families through student handbooks, et cetera, around different attendance procedures. Any questions regarding attendance?
Does it say anywhere, I know we're going to be, you have lots of new exhibits requesting personal absences and such. Does it state anywhere how many personal absences are allowed per year and what are satisfactory reasons for a personal absence?
Sure. So a lot of times our families don't generally go to policy for those pieces, but that's a piece by the state that it's 10 days allowable by state statute. We talked about creating a preamble to our policy booklet talking about following state statutes, et cetera. And then we go through and give examples. In those first 10 days, I always tell parents, I said, in the first 10 days, you can keep them home to stand on their head if you want. That's up to you. Vacations, et cetera. There's other kind of request processes and forms if you have a pre-planned absence, maybe for a vacation that's going to extend. Those types of situations, college visits are exempt. Those are more in tune in our student handbooks, our family handbooks, to help them navigate that. Or we would just urge people to contact the school offices. But you certainly will receive sometimes people panic and sometimes they don't, but a lot of times on 5, 10, 15-day absences, you get letters generated. You might be called in for meetings when you're in excess of those 10, and it's becoming problematic. And the other piece is an unexcused absence, which is if you fail to call in at all, and you get automatic calls, those kinds of things. So that's that level of detail is present in handbooks. Any other questions about attendance? The next one is student conduct. The 443, we're looking at bringing that language up to date with current recommendations. And again, student conduct is then translated into handbooks, code of conducts, athletic conduct things. It's giving you the overarching policy that supports that, saying you need to be in compliance with those expectations at school levels. Any questions? Okay. The next was that combination that we talked about, 447.1, which allows for the removal of the other piece, and that is bringing our language up to date regarding the use of physical force, and it's also really specifically talking about seclusion and restraint. So this is a new piece. We didn't have some of these pieces before, but per WASB's recommendation, you can combine those. So it's combining those concepts. And then we would write updated ARs around seclusion and restraint, things of that nature, again, that help guide that detail and procedure at the school level. Any questions regarding the policy? .447.3 is again just bringing forward updated language around suspension and expulsion. Again, it's just some tweaks. This is a piece where we're falling under state statute as well. And then we talked about a lot at committee on this one that we don't leave it up to parents who are facing suspension and expulsion to go to policy for information. You're receiving direct letters if your child is suspended or we're looking at expulsion hearings. You're receiving direct letters and information from us should you find yourself in that situation. We don't leave it up to our families to try and navigate this information and policy. Any questions regarding that update? Great. The other piece, we went into detail around this. 453.1 was emergency nursing services. The one thing that we talked about was, wow, it seems like a whole lot of stuff. And do we really have a district physician? And we do. Every district has one. It's Dr. Singh. I didn't remember his name at committee, so thank you, Dr. Singh. And we really do all these things. The committee was like, this seems so robust. We don't want to pass something that we're out of compliance with. And I reminded the group you have an annual review that our district nurse, Amy Brager, brings forward. The one shift that we made, and I called out in a highlight, was we talked about committee. At that annual review, did the board want to approve kind of the procedures that the district nurse and I develop? And the board deferred that to my oversight in coordination with the district nurse, and again, consultation with our district physician if we should need it. And that they were happy with the annual report, that we would continue to bring forward and highlight these things. Are there any other questions around emergency nursing services? And again, just can't shout out enough to all of our school nurses and healthcare professionals in navigating the year and serving students and families. So thank you for their work. The next is 458, school wellness. We did not have one, so it's not an error that there's no link. We have one around student wellness, but there is a requirement to have a policy and some action around general school wellness. 458 gave us kind of that umbrella of what do we need to do, so then we can take that foundation and run with it, convene the team, and get us up to speed as a district on school wellness. So this is that language, this is that oversight and process that we would then execute, and it comes before the board to look at. There's actually a state review as well, but one of the things you're graded on is if you actually have this policy in place too. Any questions regarding school wellness? Wonderful. 460 is updating awards and scholarships to students. It's removing some of the underlying pieces. We had it restating in AR's rules, so the 460 is just bringing that up to date. It's keeping all the pertinent information in and removing, with that old 460, some ARs that were just reiterations that could get really old around different scholarships and requirements. Those are found online or through the programs themselves. Any question on 460? And the last one was mislabeled. So you'll see when we look at that, that was really once labeled as 458. So you see that as a strike through, just calling your attention. And then the revision of the language is to bring that up to date. Some of the questions that we talked about at committee, this is expanding beyond locker rooms, changing areas, those kinds of things. One of the questions was asked, what if I have a coach who is a different gender than my team? There is then either an assistant coach or someone on site of the same gender before they would go into halftime to give everyone that pep talk, et cetera, making sure that in that locker room that it's okay for someone of the opposite sex to enter. Ladies, we all, and then the coach can enter. So someone does that. And then I just reaffirmed with the athletic directors around the onboarding practice for our coaches. This really comes a lot in the high school. They're in a locker room celebrating a victory and someone snaps a photo. It's like, nope, can't do that. Or press wanting to come in and get quotes from players, coaches, et cetera. It's just protecting our students' privacy in those spaces. Any questions on that? Wonderful. Our committee will continue to bring these forward for full board review. If after looking at them you have any questions or a comment, please reach out to me and I'll make sure I include that in an update, but we will continue on a path to bring these forward.
So one question, there were 2 policies that we talked about potentially fast tracking.
Correct, and they were noted. So a fast track, a true fast track, you can bring forward even quicker than, so after our second reading you could bring it forward, or there's another one where we could bring it forward and have everyone give it unanimous approval. So if we want to segregate those out, but I'm comfortable with bringing those forward, asking for those couple, and then you have the opportunity, given there was no comment, I think we could kind of on that, not the fast track, but there's that second reading and action. I'm hearing and seeing we could move this whole slate forward in that manner.
Sure, I'd be in favor of that, and I think it'll give everyone a little bit more time to kind of go through these. And my recollection is those items that might qualify for fast-track revision weren't urgent. They were more
Exactly. So even just the
cosmetic.
2 readings, I think it gave everyone, so for me, like, I didn't need you to act on them this evening. They weren't imminent. You know, one that we fast-tracked before was open enrollment. We were facing the opening of that period, that kind of thing. There was no impetus. Again, fast enough getting it before you on that second read in March and going for approval on many of these pieces, so.
Great. Any questions on these policies? This is a first reading, so this will come back at a future meeting then for additional consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, which takes us to committee reports, and the curriculum committee met on March 2nd, and the chair of that committee, Erin Dove, will give us an update.
Yeah, thank you. So we had 3 items on the agenda, and they were all just discussion items. The first item was on Start College Now and early college credit timeline. And just as a reminder, the early college credit opportunity is for students in grades 11 and 12 that can request to take 1 or more courses during the summer or fall semester at a 4-year public or private nonprofit university. And the Start College Now program is similar for grades 11 and 12, but through a technical college. High school students are informed about these opportunities via their counselor or the College Career Center, and they're also included in the high school course planning guide. The due date for these course requests for summer and fall was actually on March 1st for both programs. So due to the timeline, the request for approval of those courses will come to the full board at the March 22nd meeting. The second item for discussion was the WBVA, which is the West Bend Virtual Academy. And we just talked about around the virtual program in general, and that it existed in this West Bend School District for actually a number of years for the upper grades. It was called WBOLA. And the original intent for this school year was to expand that opportunity through for K through 12 students. Obviously, with the pandemic, that kind of fast-forwarded everything, and the level of interest was dramatically increased from previous expectations. With the processes in place and the advanced course planning, the second semester of the virtual academy started off better. Success coaches met with each student, onboarding them, and for the second semester, and then we had other students transition to their in-person classes. So the number of virtual students in the second semester is decreased from last. There's been discussion talking about planning for next year and what that looks like, taking into account all the challenges and strengths that we've seen through this year. For the 2021-22 school year, there could be a possibility of some of our teachers teaching virtually with our curriculum, using Canvas and additional online supports. And probably for the high school electives, the district's looking into a virtual partner for that. The plan is for parent open houses for virtual students in August. And then as Ms. Wimmer mentioned, on April 5th, when there is no school, the current virtual students will be in person taking their Wisconsin Forward testing in person. The third item that we had on our agenda for discussion was around the 6th grade social studies process and feedback. We talked about what the process looks like for a curricular review. We discussed the National Geographic series and that it was chosen based on the inquiry practices in it, the responsive text, and the alignment of that text to the current standards. It also features 3 different reading levels for students, which includes below, at, and above grade level. And as we heard tonight, the public comments that we received indicate there may be bias in those subjects. Traditional textbooks were reviewed as well. The teachers, when they reviewed, their first choice was the World Geography textbook. But as I said, the National Geographic one was ultimately chosen because it aligned better with the instruction process and the standards, and it's an engaging text for the students. Professional development is in the works, but as we noted, this is still a discussion item in the hands of the curriculum committee and the administration and teachers. So that's all I have for that.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Aaron? I want to thank the curriculum committee. There's obviously a lot of great things being discussed, some heavy lifting. Appreciate that. For the superintendent, I know that there was some concern in the community about, hey, maybe we need a little bit more time to look at these materials. Could they be posted at the library? Can you comment a little bit on that, please?
Yes, those materials were sent to the public library. So thank you to Tim Harder, serves on their board as well. So it was a couple quick phone calls, but just making sure that those were accessible to the public. They had been previously been on site by us at the ESC, but this encourages our community, and you could see it at increased hours. So we made sure those were out.
Great, thank you. All right, any other questions? Okay, for future agenda items, our board meeting calendar, there is our next regular board meeting, March 22nd. The curriculum committee meets again on April 6th. And then in April, we have 2 regular board meetings on April 12 and April 26. Are there any other items for follow-up and communication?
Just quickly, will we be, because we have an election in there, will we be recognizing newly elected board members at that last meeting, or will we do that at a prior time? Have we decided? At the 26th, sometimes we did swearing in right before that meeting. Are you envisioning doing that, or would you envision?
Generally, it's dictated to be a specific by the Monday before. It usually is in April. I'll look at the timeline for that to determine which meeting.
I think it's the second meeting for sure.
There's certain timeline logistics. I don't have it in front of me, but we'll check which one.
Okay,
so we can recognize people.
Yep, we'll clarify that for the next meeting. Thank you, Nancy. That's a good question. There was another question.
I just have a quick question, and maybe next board meeting, an update for the vaccination of our districts and our partners with Freighter. Do we expect that to be done in April or in March here, or go into April? And maybe it can be just a comment for next board meeting. I know it's just started. So.
Sure, it's just starting, and not only beyond our clinic and Freighter, we provided template letters. In fact, the template that Mr. Hansen created was used by everyone in the county to declare 1B eligible, so that for our staff, they could go to a Walgreens, they could do their primary care provider, they can go through the clinic. So there's many different avenues. So we can certainly, I meet with the health department on Thursday, and we can do check-ins on, like you said, kind of, so what does that look like?
Okay.
Certainly for not only us, but across the county for our educators.
Great.
Just a follow-up and a thank you to the healthcare providers, pharmacies that are providing these vaccines. Superintendent, do you happen to know how many teachers are there in the county? Do you have an idea?
How many teachers what?
In the county, in Washington County.
So we needed, when we were lobbying DHS, we needed 3,500 doses for first dose and an additional 3,500 second doses to cover anticipated needs in the county for education.
So that's a big effort. So thank you to everyone who can help make that happen, definitely. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, I would move to adjourn. Is there a second? Thanks, Nancy. Motion and second to adjourn. Any final discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, the motion carries. Thank you, everyone.